So I was going to do a follow-up reading to the Kylie Rodney situation. I feel like there needs to be a follow-up. Been thinking about it a lot, but then more so, I've got to be honest, my energy's been being pulled towards the Hero and Cheska situation. I don't believe it's just the two of them that are within this situation. I feel like there's many, many more. Many, many more. And I'm trying to go through readings, I'm pulling readings and stuff, and they're on my mind, so I feel like I've just got to get it out, get it off. So we've got sacred space. We have growth. We have duality. And we have integration. So I feel like what's gone on in the past of these people, or these people involved, any victim really, any victim of any situation, it kind of stunts your growth. It stunts your growth in the way that, you know, something happens, and it doesn't matter what kind of abuse it is. It could be physical, it could be sexual, it could be emotional, it could be any kind of abuse that a child would suffer, has the ability to stunt the growth. And when I speak of stunting growth, I mean like the body grows, life grows, you know, experience grows, and they go through life. And when we speak of adults and we think of adults, or we think of people who have got trauma, we speak of like the inner child. And people that have suffered traumas, especially, the inner child is quite dominant in their lives, is a quite dominant personality trait for them, is quite a dominant aspect of them, because they kind of get stunted at a certain point. And that's not to say that they don't mature, they don't grow, they don't expand in life or move forward in life. That is to say that it's almost like, do you know, you could be like me, turning 41 this month, and in my mind, I'm still like 16, 15. In my mind, I still think the way that I did when I was a child, when I was a kid. And there are reasons for that. You kind of get stunted. So for as much as you grow, you will always have these childlike elements to you. And these are seen often in the way that people move through the life. Traumatic relationships where they don't know how to conduct themselves within relationships. Traumatic relationships with friends, being unable to kind of understand or accept love because their idea or view of love or connection or friendship or ties, bonded ties, is skewed. It's skewed by something that's gone in the past, and we get stunted. We get emotionally stunted to say that the inner child is a very dominant part of who we are. Because this inner child can be quite the terror when they've got every right to be, we tend to shun that part of ourselves. We don't want to look at that part of ourselves. We don't want to acknowledge, because it can be traumatic, it can be scary, it can be traumatic, it can be upsetting, and it's almost like having to admit that you've carried. I mean, sometimes it's like having to admit that situations that have gone on in your life after this fact, maybe situations that you've brought about, the, you know, behaviours, the unwanted behaviours that you may have exhibited, where you feel like you've been triggered off and you've behaved in a certain way, but the reality is it's your inner child reacting to a situation that it knows well, or reacting to a situation that it perceives to know well. It's seeing something that it's seen before and it's reacting. So you're stepping out of your adult self into this childlike kind of, you reacting to what is going on, even though it may not be all that it is, or all that you perceive it to be in that moment. And it could be that, and that hurts people in the way that it's hard to accept, actually. My behavior in this situation may have exploded the situation, may have created the situation worse. I actually may have been at fault, and it's the child really should never be at fault. And there's always this weird sensation where it's like, but wow, how did I do wrong? Because they were doing me wrong. How did I do wrong? And it's trying to find out, and it's hard to find out because you don't want to look at what would have triggered that off in the first place. What childhood situation or abusive situation would have triggered that off within you? And because we don't want to look at that, we never seem to own up to our behaviours moving forward, moving beyond that, and we keep ourselves stunted. It's a way of keeping ourselves stunted. And we kind of get trapped in time. I feel at the minute there is this chance, this opportunity for healing. There's this opportunity for healing. And when we've got duality here, it's almost like there's this light side and this dark side. It's like we've got this everyday persona, but then we've got this inner child that is just kind of acting all out and trying to be noticed. And it's trying to be noticed because it wants to be healed. It wants to be loved. It doesn't want to be left back where it was hurt or harmed or maimed. It doesn't want to be left there. It wants somebody to tell it that the way that it's feeling is okay. I'm sorry. It's waiting. Our inner child waits for us to acknowledge it. So, for as much as we put that off, for as much as we put that to the wayside and don't want to deal with that, we are just reinforcing. We're just reinforcing the fact that what they felt, what they went through was irrelevant, or was somehow, it's not, we're not validating it. It's not that it's irrelevant, it's that we're not validating it. We're not sitting with it, we're not validating the hurt, we're not comforting, we're not trying to heal. We're trying to kind of turn a blind eye to it. And we don't even realise that we're doing that. We don't even realise that we're doing that as we get older. We just don't want to be sat in negative emotions. Oh, one sec. Sorry, I had to get myself together there. Well, we've got integration here, and the true integration comes, this integration, this... Are you alright? Dopey cunt. Dog just fell out of his bed. This integration comes when we sit with, accept, and validate the pain and suffering of this inner child, the pain and suffering that was caused to this inner child, the pain and suffering that was caused to us. When we sit and validate that, and we seek out ways to validate that, or to have that validated, which is, I think, like in the case of this situation, this is seeking justice for what happened. This is, they've reached out, they've communicated, and they were met with, well, I'm over it, you should be too. I'm not dealing with this anymore. You should be over it. You're a grown person now. No, absolutely fuck it. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. That is in no way acceptable. And that is why we're now seeing this playing out on social media and everything, because these people are trying to get themselves good. They're trying to integrate with themselves. They are trying to love on themselves. They are acknowledging what happened to their inner child, to themselves. They're acknowledging what happened to themselves, and they want to be validated. And being told, well, I'm over it, get over it, is not validation. That's not someone saying, look, I done that, I feel disgusted. It's not somebody actually owning what they did. That is not somebody validating or owning what they did. And to be invalidated continually, still into their 40s, is something that is no, I feel like they're trying. This is why we're seeing this now. This is why this is out there now, because they are trying. They're trying to get themselves to a place, you know, they may have gone through the shitter. They may have had like really turbulent, tumultuous lives up into a point where now they're getting to themselves to a place where they feel, you know, they're getting themselves settled, they're getting themselves where they could be able to hold down a job or just have a settled kind of family life. But there's always this one piece, there's always this one thing that needs to be dealt with or needs to be addressed or acknowledged or accepted. And for as long as it's not, this peace will never come to them. You know, sometimes we speak about like things that go on, especially within relationships and stuff like that, older adult relationships, where we may never get the answers, we may never get the peace, we may never get the validation, or we may never get what it is that we're seeking, the closure. We may never get the closure from it. That doesn't correlate into any kind of childhood abuse. That doesn't correlate into anything that was done to people as children. We don't just say, right, well, I'm never going to get the closure. The only time, and it is awful, the only time that we have to make peace with the fact as adults that we may never get closure for something that happened to us as a child is when this person is no longer around to be able to answer to what they did. And we have to try and find a way to make peace with that ourselves. But other than that, if the person is still around and they're still able to be held accountable, then they should be held accountable and there should be no excuses for it. They can't decide. They don't get to decide or dictate when or how someone gets closure or how someone makes peace with something. They don't get to decide that. And foolish to think that they could go through life and do that. And it really upsets me and it really annoys me why people say, well, why now? Why are you speaking out now? These people have probably had tumultuous lives. Their lives have probably been all over the show. They've probably been in tumultuous relationships. They've probably been in a state of survival. They've been in a state of survival with this wounded inner child dictating their lives, pushing their lives. And they've done the work on themselves. They've gone through themselves and done work on themselves to get themselves to a point where they can feel stable and secure enough to address the situations of the past. And in addressing the situations of the past, they need the closure. They need the validation. They need to know that what they went through is not just being swept under the rug. And they come to that when they come to that. They could have come to that at 20 years of age. They could have come to that at 60 years of age. It doesn't matter when they come to that point of peace in their life. That it should never matter when they come to that point of peace in their life to be able to say, look, no, I'm not okay. Well, I'm not just going to pretend this didn't happen. That they can do that whenever they choose. Whenever they finally say, look, I can't live like this. This has ruined my life to now. I'm not allowing it to ruin my life anymore, and I'm going to take control now, and I'm going to get the answers. I'm going to get the justice. I'm going to get whatever it is that I to be able to close this out and integrate myself and be able to find healing. It's healing that they're needing to find, and this is what these people that come out years later, or even if they speak out straight away, because in this situation, and it's fucking heartbreaking. It was brought out. It was brought out many moons ago. It was hushed up by the people that should have been fucking protecting him. By the people that should have been protecting him, it was hushed up. And why now? Because it was hushed then. Because they couldn't do it then. They tried and they couldn't. So that's why now. So if that's something that's going to bugbear on your mind, why now? Why when they're successful? Why when this? Why when that? because they've tried. In this situation, they've tried. And even if they hadn't, they have to be able to be strong enough within themselves to go through with what it is they need to do. These people don't deserve to be abused over and over again for their choices or for how they deal with their trauma. They don't deserve it. And I feel like growth is going to come. Growth is going to come. They're going to be able to find the closure that they want. They're going to be able to make some kind of peace with it. They're going to be able to settle this within themselves. And they're going to be able to make some kind of peace with it. It will never be okay. It will never be okay. But they'll be able to make some kind of peace with it because that child is being acknowledged. That inner child that is screaming out to be heard is being heard. So allow it. Allow it. Stop questioning it. If it's not to your taste, then you look away, but you should never look away in situations where somebody has been hurt. And if you do, you're part of the problem. If you do, you're part of the problem. I feel like these girls, I don't think it's just girls. I feel like these girls and these boys, whoever this may be, in this situation, in this particular situation, I feel like they're going to get the closure that they deserve. That I feel like they're going to be able to move themselves. They're going to be able to integrate their inner child. And this situation is not going to be something that is dictating, directing, or causing havoc in their lives anymore. Let's get Divine Feminine card just for a little message to them. So there's conflict and unrest. We've got hostilities, conflict and unrest. But then we've got sacred purpose, eternal flame, ancestral legacy. This is about making the path. We don't accept if the path or if the legacy that's being left to us is not for our highest good or for anybody's highest good, we do not have to follow that. We can create our own sacred purpose. We can create the purpose where we put a stop to something. Now, it's funny that I should say that because he's tried to say, well, we put a stop to this and that and the other. No, you've done what you needed to do for yourself. But you weren't the only victim in this. You're saying that you were a victim. You're not the only victim in this. There was other victims, and you don't get to dictate because now you're dealt with or you feel you've done with it. You don't get to dictate how they deal or get done with it. You don't get to dictate that to them. You are changing. These girls coming forward, they are changing. They are changing the ancestral line. They are changing the ancestral line, and it will cause conflicts. It will cause unrest. It's bound to. People don't want their business airing. People are going to be seen for the inadequacies that they have done in the past, be that parents who didn't do anything when they found out, be that other family members, be that church people, whoever. It's going to cause hostilities because it is shining a light onto the dirtiness of a situation, and people don't like to show their dirt. They don't like to be outed. They don't like to show their dirt. But it's unnecessary. There's hostilities here, but if you look at this, she's got the moon behind her. She's got this moon energy. She is in a stance where she is facing off to these hostilities. She's prepared to fight and take on these hostilities, and she's protected. She's protected. She's got protection. They have protection. Whoever comes forward now to change the lineage of this family, to change what is set out or what is supposed to be accepted for this family, they're brave enough to do this. They are protected in doing so. So we've got innovation, new creations. Ooh. New creations. So this is, I feel like the new creations card here is about setting a new path, setting an example, setting a new path, choosing a new way. I feel like this is going to be them finally putting something to rest within a family. Finally putting something to rest within a family. I've got healing the heart, power of self-love. We're never ready to deal with anything until we are ready, until we decide, I want out of this energy. I want to work through my shadows. I want to do this. I want to achieve this. I want to get out of this energy. I want to make my life better. And until we can get to a point where we start